these hands again. I've got a shim under our bearing, and then our gearbox end plate on. There we go. And tap it on a little bit. Always helps. Video today, or the start, what I'm going to start doing now is, because I've got every part that I wanted to put into this engine. If you remember the previous videos, I was on about these bearings sitting slightly proud like that. That's your answer. It's MB and Doncaster do different versions of this, but I only need the shallow part, that side. What it does, because it's got the cutout in it, all the other parts, the washer that holds the oil seal in and the bearing, like a spacer washer, then that you don't need any of that. You just need that now, because that's got everything built into it. So it's got a deeper side and a shallow side. What you do is just measure that. Mine's 0.9, which is what that is exactly. So if you can see, that's shallow and that's a deeper one. They sell different thicknesses of these cutouts basically for here. So I need the shallow side, which is that side. So you can stick that on and stick your washers on. And then the bearing, although it's not pushed in any further or whatever, it can't move in or out, the same as that one would have done. But if you remember, these get splayed out, and I don't know if you could see that with the camera, but it's got a bend in it where the bearing is sort of pushing against it, so it's not flat. All you're getting is basically the four corners and where it's holding in the center against the bearing, where this is holding flat against all the bearing surface. And should be, I've not used one before, this is the first engine I've built with one, so, but the idea, definitely brilliant idea, fantastic idea. And going with their tool as well, as I explained to you before, if you're trying to shim up a gearbox, you won't beat that tool, unless you put obviously a rear hub on. Just making sure I've got all the right into me again. As I say, then if you reuse any nuts, you know where they go. Like so. Yeah. That's the trouble with these plastic gloves. You can't feel anything when you're doing them, so let's do them up sort of finger tight, and then I'll use the socket on them. 10mm head. Once again, it's another freezing night. That time we had some decent weather, isn't it? So all I'm doing is nipping them up in a cross way again. Doesn't matter which way you do them, as long as they're, you know, you don't go around in a circle. Right, so quarter of a turn, or half a turn I should say. There you go. That's it, and that's all we need to do. That's in now. The bearing can't move. I just have to put the locking Allen bolt in with the Allen head. Stick it on the end of there and put that back in. It just stops the axle from spinning, as I explained on a previous video or vlog, whatever you want to call them. And just lock that off. So that's all dead tight again. I've also decided that I'm buying the Kayos again. I really do rate them. That's the drive side bearing, and I'll be putting that in there. And what I've done is, because I didn't want to lose all the screws, I'll get that out of the way and turn the engine towards you so you can see a bit better. Inside there, I'm just aware that this seems to create like a ripple wave on the video. Yeah, I can see it on there. Just I'm using the big screws this time, not the Allen bolts that I've been using in the past. Only because I had a problem taking that one out from the LI engine, if you remember. So I've gone back to, you know, as Innocenti would have done. So I'm just going to get a screwdriver, remove them. I need to put the oil seal in on this, and it's going to be warmed up to get the bearing in, a bit like we did with the rear hub one. I'll put the screws on the top, take the plate out. It's always good to put stuff in like this to make sure that, you know, if nothing else, that all your holes are in line. You know, trial fit. They're not done up tight or anything. Be a bit of Loctite on these. I don't normally use Loctite. I normally use a punch like they did originally. But Loctite will hold it anyway. I've never had one of these come loose again. You know, you hear horror stories all the time. I suppose it's if you do it up with a, you know, an impact screwdriver, should be okay. So we just need to put our new Viton oil seal in there and remove the screw total one. Never reuse an oil seal. Never ever reuse an oil seal. Once it's been in, it's basically dead. So I need to give that a bit of a wipe. And then what we're going to do is get our gas on, get it warmed up, and our bearing should just push in when the casings are warm again. So we're going to fire up the gas. I'm going to cut away while I'm doing that, because it's basically just warming up the casing inside there, both sides. So I'll be spinning the engine around, doing both sides, and when I think it's warm enough, after about 5 minutes or so, then I'll cut back in when we're putting the bearing in. See you in a few minutes. Right, I'm happy that that's warm enough. What you can do is do a drop of spit on it if it steams off. That's what generally people say is warm enough. So I'm just going to open the bearing. You can freeze the bearing, and if you do stick it in the fridge, my recommendation is you leave it in the bag. Don't open the bag. I'm hoping that will just push straight in. No, sod's law, it won't. It almost did, didn't it? We'll get a punch. That's in. Definitely in. That's solid. If I just grab hold of the camera and show you, it's in and it's rotating freely. But that, I've never had one that tight before. I can feel the heat in the casing even here. Just stepped in there perfectly. It rotates nice and freely. Brand new bearing anyway. And again, I always put the markings so that when you take off anything you can see it again. So I'm quite happy with that. Bring you up again. I'll put a light back in there again. Oh, not that one. You can just see it stepped in there. And that's our bearing in place. So the actual plate, I've got to change the oil seal, as you know, but that plate should go in flat, which it is. So it's all flat and it's in. Lovely that. And just want to give the plate a little wipe down again. Seems to be getting oil from nowhere. I don't know where it's coming from, but need to just clean out the groove as well. As I say, I've learnt my lesson. I'm not putting so much grease around the crankshaft and the bearings when I build this engine. That's lubricated by the gearbox oil anyway, that main shaft bearing. or main drive side. What we need to do is just knock out, I don't know if you can see that, just using a screwdriver to preen it out. It knocks in from the bearing side in, and there's a little lip that it goes against, and the spring should face you, or face the crankshaft. Right, so I've cleaned it up, and that oil seal's ready to go in, and then I've got the mag side one to do. So to get to the mag side one, which is here, you have to take out the circlip, a set of circlip pliers which are on the wrong way round. I'll cut out and do that. Can convince myself that the pliers are around the wrong way, but you need to just push them in on there. Like so, and then bring it in. Should come out, there you go, that's out. And then I need to just do what I did with the drive side, just put a screwdriver in, be careful because you've got the bearing there, and just push against the mag side like I'm doing on there, and it will come out. There she goes. So you can see it's lifted. Just go around a bit more and a bit more, and there it is. That's the mag side one out, and these are both Viton oil seals, so I'll just chuck that one away. We don't need that one. What I'm going to do is put some more grease in here, re-grease, repack the bearing, which is it an S? Oh, it's a Koyo as well. There you go. I do generally buy decent bearings, so just give that a wipe out, get rid of the grease, all the dirty grease out of there. And what we're going to do is pack that in a second. 33, 52, 5. Just put a bit of grease around the end of it like so, and bear in mind the spring comes towards the crankshaft. You're sealing the crankshaft, and then what we need is our punch just to knock that in. Looking for me as we said in previous videos, the rear hub, or a rear hub locking washer, is perfect size for that. It goes inside perfectly. So you see that fits in, and that's actually in, apart from just a little bit high there. What you're doing is you're looking at the groove here, that it clears the groove. It shouldn't actually block the groove. It should just fit in nicely. So I'll give that a little tap in that corner. That's it. And our groove is clear all the way around now. So our circlip can go back in again, after being cleaned, of course. Circlip pliers again. I don't really want to damage that oil seal, but you see, because it's such a stupid shape, it's hard to sort of put it somewhere that's going to be level. But with all circlips, they've got like a flat side and a round side. Flat side to the oil seal, and hopefully I can get this in. It's got a bit of white fibres from the rag there, but I'm hoping I'll just get this in first time. We'll see. These pliers are a tad small. So what I've done is I've just closed it with my fingers, and then, oh, it's clipped out again, brilliant. Right, and then bring it in. It's in a bit. That's what I didn't want it to do, going at an angle. So I'm just pushing on there again so that my pliers will fit it. You can use long nose pliers. These are a cheap set of pliers. Oh, there you go, that's nearly in. That's in far enough for me to work that in now. There you go. And what I always do with any circlip, I always have the two holes down. So if we get in there and just move it, you can see that's in a groove, it's not coming out. So that's our oil seal in. So before that goes back onto the crank, which is here, I will re-grease this bearing. As you can see, that goes straight in. So I probably couldn't see, but that's about, just needs pulling in, which you will do by spinning that when you're putting it in. I'm not putting the oil seal fully on yet. Put the crankshaft back down again. So that's one oil seal in, held on. And so all we've got to do is grease that, and then this one here goes on this plate. And if you think the plate goes in that way with the countersunk screw holes, so our oil seal has to come in this way. Yeah. And again, we can use something like that, or a flat plate. What do I do with that? Can use that again, and our punch basically. And you could warm this up and it should actually just push in. Some people seem to think you can just push them in by hand. Well, I don't know, I don't think that's going to go. It's going in skew width anyway, and I don't want that. I want it to go in level. So what we're going to do again is just put a bit of grease on the edge. So slide it in, and just make sure that you're doing it right. That's that way round with the bearing facing, the oil seal facing you. So springs towards you. And what I'll do is I'll lay it flat on the table, put that on there, and I'll use my punch, and I'll just tap it home. Just have a look. It's still a bit skew width, isn't it? No, that's too skew width. I'll try it again. What I'm doing is just getting it started level. What I'm doing is just hitting on the outside edge. That looks pretty level, doesn't it? Bit in there. this one's fighting me. I think that's gone in a tad. No, it's not in far enough. Let's put our washer on. That's better. What I'm doing here is I'm just looking at, that's a little bit high there. It's still a tad high. Right, so we've got our oil seal in place, and basically that's how it sits against the crankshaft and spins like so. So I'm happy with that, it's in level. So all we've got to do now is get our